Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We've got some exciting news in the world of Palantir. Palantir has officially announced the companies that are going to be presenting at AIPCon number 2, September 14th, which is going to be next Thursday. I am incredibly excited for AIPCon. Obviously, when AIP was introduced back in June, it was really exciting. We were like, what is going on? How is Palantir going to basically commercialize this, go to market with this product? And then a couple weeks later, we get the announcement of an entire conference. And in that conference, you had companies like Jacobs, Cleveland Clinic, and many more explaining how they're using Palantir's AIP. And it was 6 weeks after the product was even announced to the public. So within 6 weeks, they got clients starting to use the product, understand the product, and that's really when the market started realizing that AI might just be a serious moat for Palantir. A couple months later, September from June, we have Palantir's AIP conference number 2, and the press release just came out yesterday night on what their goal is with AIPCon 2 and what they're going to be doing. So here's from the press release. Palantir announced its next AIPCon will be held on September 14th. AIPCon will feature more than 30 organizations showcasing how they use Palantir's new artificial intelligence platform. I will be live streaming it on this channel. Introduced less than 6 months ago, Palantir's AIP is already used by more than 100 organizations in sectors ranging from energy to finance, hospitality, and healthcare. AIPCon will bring together users of AIP to exchange with current and potential Palantir customers on the best use cases and the transformational power of Palantir's AI technology. This is uniquely important before we continue going through the press release, because the product's out there, right? The product's being used. This is not like a product that is hypothetical. This is not a product that's in partnership with some other big AI company and eventually it's going to go to the market and maybe it's kind of there, maybe it's not there, but it's not really the main product from the company. This is Palantir's bread and butter in combination with Foundry. Now, Foundry and Gotham and Apollo are what are making up the majority of revenue, but AIP is what the company has definitively decided to stake its future growth trajectories on, given how the market is revolving around companies that are utilizing AI. Obviously, Foundry uses AI and machine learning in a very sophisticated manner. AIP is just the next evolution of how the subject matter experts at a company that are not technical could interact with all that data. The fact that they're showing AIPCon 2 and the fact that there's 30 customers out of 100 that they already have that are actually presenting, holding these like master classes and little presentations, even if they're not on the big stage, means that the customers are actually using it, right? They had to develop over the past couple months some level of use cases for it, enough to be able to even make a presentation, which means you could argue that more often than not, some of these 100 customers are going to get some value out of it and are receiving value. And as a result of that, will potentially pay for it as Palantir begins to monetize the software. It is being used, and that's the most important thing. AIPCon 2, it will also feature Palantir CEO Alex Karp, CTO Shyam Sankar, and Head of Global Commercial Ted Marbury, who will take the stage to give an in-depth look at Palantir AIP and specific examples of how customers are getting started quickly on their AI journey. Customer keynotes are going to be CPKC, HCA Healthcare, Sintra, Eaton, Sompo Japan, Miller's Ale House. Now, I don't know all these companies. I know Sompo Japan, the largest insurance company in Japan and a strategic investor in Palantir. And Miller's Ale House is a brand that has a ton of restaurants, I believe, in the United States. So from a logistics perspective, they're probably going to be able to show how they're using something like AIP. HCA Healthcare, I know a little about them, don't know that much. The others, I'm probably going to make videos on later throughout the week trying to understand how they're using AIP, because I've never even heard of these companies before. But it's super interesting that they're going to be presenting, and we're probably going to get some really unique use cases. I remember JD Power back in June. That was an interesting use case. JD Power is a huge company that takes a ton of data when it comes to automotive vehicles and the commercialization of them, and so they're using AIP as well. Additional customers such as Intuit, the New York Stock Exchange, Cone Health, Genpact, and more will offer attendees masterclasses and demonstrations on the use of AIP, offering unprecedented insight into the workflow and capabilities of Palantir's AIP. Intuit, $150 billion public company. That's a big deal. That's potentially using AIP in a meaningful way. The New York Stock Exchange, that's pretty recognizable as a company that's using AIP. It just goes to show the breadth of diversity that Palantir has in terms of being able to capture different markets that could potentially use AIP or a product like AIP in a meaningful way. Now, what does this mean in terms of the growth for the company? We're going to have earnings on November something. The company said early November. So early November, which is just a little bit over 2 months from now, a little bit under 2 months, given it's September 8th. We will get earnings for Q3. Q3, we're expecting $553 to $557 million of revenue. We're probably going to bring in 558 because Palantir always beats towards the high side. We're going to be GAAP profitable again. So you have S&P 500 inclusion. We will fully be eligible for once we are GAAP profitable next quarter. And by that quarter, we will know if we got the NHS deal. If we were to get the $611 million NHS deal, That adds a lot. I believe that grows revenue 5% year over year for the next 5 years, just when you average it out and add it down to the top line numbers we're getting in terms of revenue. At least that's when I was doing some of the math. That's what it comes down to. So that deal is really important. I mean, just in terms of what it can do for revenue growth and what it can do to sustain momentum in the healthcare space that we're seeing, you would argue that the NHS will probably be able to use something like AIP as well. So you got the NHS stuff, you got the S&P 500 stuff, and then you got around $558 million of revenue in November. What's really going to be important is, does Palantir decide to turn on the spigot? Spigot's the right word. Leave spigot in a comment if you make it to the end of the video. That's how I know you watched this part. In terms of monetization, I personally think that's not going to happen. And I think the goal of AIPCon 2 is to show how much Palantir is doing a couple things. Number one, how much they're trying to take over the market, how much they're trying to get integrated within their customers and truly become partners with these customers, not just have these customers as clients that are downloading their software, but truly creating transformational software for them. And number three, how much they're trying to solve industry-wide problems. HCA Healthcare, Palantir announced another press release today with one of the largest hospitals in Italy. I'll be discussing that in another video, the NHS deal. I mean, healthcare is an entire $4 trillion industry that Palantir could be able to capture if they do it the right way. And doing it the right way does not mean that you start charging your customers immediately. It means you build something so useful and you fend off monetization because you have investors who understand the long-term growth trajectory. And then monetization comes kind of all at once you turn on the spigot. I don't think AIPCon 2 is meant to be able to show that they're monetizing. It's rather meant to show, hey, we have a lot of customers in a lot of unique industries, from the New York Stock Exchange to healthcare to restaurant brands, that are finding value in AIP. We have international large insurance company in Japan, and we've got one of the largest hospitals in Italy still finding use cases via our software. As a result of that, if they can show to the market, hey, there's a lot of people that really find interest in our software, and you're seeing on stage with your own eyes how they're utilizing our software and why they're so excited to implement something like Palantir's AIP into their organization, then maybe this is a broader market opportunity than a lot of people think. I know Google and Microsoft have come out with some products over the past couple of days, Google in particular, around implementing AI assistance for companies and organizations. I still am not sure exactly how those products compare to something like Palantir's AIP. I do believe there is quite a unique level of differentiation in terms of how AIP is implemented and what it does with large language models, and in the context of also Foundry and ontology. And so there is some more depth to it. I'm still trying to research and understand, are they really competitors? Can they work hand in hand? But this is a chance for Palantir to basically show to the market, we've got something here. It's not making any money yet, but there's a shit ton of people using it. And if there's that many people using it, you should really pay attention to why they're using it. And if they start paying us to use it, if it's this valuable for them, it's just a question of us figuring out how to agree on a pricing strategy. And I think the biggest concern investors are going to have going into Q3 as Palantir becomes GAAP profitable is the future trajectory of growth on the company really does depend on, well, how much money are you going to charge for this? How are you going to be able to monetize that? What will be the average revenue per customer that you're getting as a result of now upselling them on AIP? Can you upsell them on other products if you're upselling them on AIP? And all of that stuff, I think, will be answered towards the latter half of 2024. Until then, it's get on for the ride, because if AIP starts growing the way we want it to grow, I mean, 400 out of 421 customers that Palantir has in total are in the pipeline to use AIP. If that number, Palantir can get to 500 customers by the end of the year, and maybe all 500 or a significant portion of them are really getting integrated with AIP, 2024 year end, early 2025, we're going to see a lot of monetization turned on, if not by mid 2024, after they would have had the product out for about 12 months by that point. So it's going to be really interesting to kind of see what happens and where AIP goes from here. I will be live streaming it on this channel. I'll be excited to live stream it September 14th. I will be here all day showing you guys what AIP is, and excited to see and learn myself from everyone presenting. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Hope you have a great weekend. I will see you guys in the next one.